Welcome. You have reached Imperial Reviews, and today's review is Beetlejuice 2. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let's get into it. So let's go over the cast. Michael Keaton, Beetlejuice. Winona Ryder, Lydia. Catherine O'Hara, Delia. Jenna Ortega, Astrid, Lydia's daughter. Willem Dafoe, the Ghost Detective. Monica Bellucci plays as Dolores, Beetlejuice's ex-wife. And Justin Theroux plays as Lydia's boyfriend, trying to be her husband. So, in nostalgia feel, Beetlejuice originally came out around 1988, and it was a hit. So for them to go decades, over 30 years for the part 2 to come out, and really majority of the whole cast except certain parts was still alive. So in this film, Charles the dad, the actor that plays as Charles the dad, is known for Principal Rooney and Ferris Bueller Day Off. He is still alive, even though they killed him off in this movie. He's still alive in real life. He's just that he had like an incident, like some sex offender type thing going on back in like 2004. So he's like in his 70s now, so they didn't bring him back. Gina Davis, she plays in the movie recently Blink Twice, so they didn't bring her character back. And of course we know Alec Baldwin is still alive, so they could have brought them back, but they wrote them off. I guess they didn't want to do the film. So this movie starts off pretty much with Beetlejuice reminiscing over Lydia after all these years. And he's trying to be reaching Lydia through visions and stuff like that. Lydia is now like, she runs a psychic, well, not like a psychic, a person who runs a show making money where she can see the dead, because she can see the dead. And so she be running into dead all the time, so it's a norm for her. Meanwhile, she has a strained relationship with her daughter, where her daughter is holding her responsible, not believing in ghosts because she never was able to see her dad. Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega, I knew this role was fitting for her when Jenna Ortega did a phenomenal job in this series Wednesday on Netflix. I still to this day don't know how they didn't pick that back up for season 2. That was a good series. But nevertheless, she plays as Lydia's daughter. They got a strained relationship. She doesn't believe in ghosts because she's pretty much holding Lydia accountable that she couldn't see her dad, who was traveling to see the world, and supposedly he got lost in the Amazon, and they never found his body. So nevertheless, you got that going on. Delia contacts Lydia, pretty much telling her some emergency. So like I said, Lydia was seeing visions of Beetlejuice. Delia said she has to speak to her. Now, of course, we know in the original Beetlejuice, Lydia was not the greatest stepdaughter, and Delia was all in her world, but Charles loved her. So when she came, she was very obnoxious. She's like the comic relief next to Beetlejuice in this whole movie. So she's talking to Lydia, talk about these other things, and then pretty much say, oh yeah, by the way, your dad passed away, and he was on. So the way they did it when she was telling the dad's story, they made it animation. And pretty much he was in the plane went down, he survived. Then when he survived on the plane, the shark came and bit him. So he went into the afterlife or whatever. And so his body pretty much was moving the whole time, the half body, because the other half was bit from a shark. Meanwhile, what you had going on is is Danny DeVito had a cameo. He's like a janitor in the ghost world, and he sparked some electricity, knocked over this parts devices. It sparked electricity in the parts, and here this body was formed together and being stapled together. It's Dolores, Beetlejuice's ex-wife. So their storyline goes that, back when Beetlejuice was alive, he was a grave robber. He met the perfect girl. She was part of a cult that sucked the souls out of people. And so she got him to marry her. And on their wedding day, they sacrificed goats and drunk blood. And so she fed Beetlejuice some poison, and then she was supposed to suck his soul. But before he died, he took an axe and split her in pieces. So that was the storyline. And so when she came back to life, she was out after Beetlejuice, sucking people's souls of the dead along the way because she still wanted his soul. So that was her storyline, the whole movie. Meanwhile, so they return back to the town, to the house, the original house. They meaning Lydia, Astrid, and Lydia's boyfriend along with Delia. They return back to the old town so they could bury the dad. And a whole stream of events start happening. So in the wake of Charles's funeral, Lydia's boyfriend proposed to her a real weird time, and you seen he was off, and he said, let's get married on your favorite holiday, which is Halloween, which is 2 days later. Astrid got upset. She drove off in the bike, and when she rode off in the bike, you thinking, oh, is she gonna have one of those events like the couple did back in part 1? So she ends up getting almost hit by a car. She's still rolling on her bike. She ended up going down a hill, running through this backyard. She's seen this boy. He's upstairs, and he helps her up, befriends her, and she's very trusting. And the boy told her, hey, if basically befriending her, I could be your friend, and if you around tomorrow, just come see me. We hang out. So she went back about her business, and she's dealing with the family, and so different things in the house. Lydia goes upstairs and, well, no, not Lydia. Or Astrid goes upstairs. When she goes upstairs, she sees the old town model of the town. She pulls the cloth off, and she sees a box that said Richard, and pretty much it was pictures of Lydia with Astrid in her stomach while she was pregnant, her love with the dad and everything like that. And so it was this pamphlet on the ground with Beetlejuice trying to send messages to Lydia or whatever. And so she didn't say anything to Astrid at the time. She pretty much went to Delia, say, yo, hey, listen, man, I've been seeing visions of Beetlejuice, and I can't get them out of my head. I used to think they were just visions, but now I'm seeing them more often. And then she's seeing this. And so Delia pretty much put some locks on that door up there and pretty much told Lydia, you need to face, you can't bury that. You need to face it. So from there, the next day, she goes see the boy that she met. Now this is where you start to notice something weird. She brings him in the house. She befriended, comes in his house, and you see a portion of his mom, and the mom doesn't really pay attention. She's just cooking. She don't really say too much to him. You see a fragment of his dad. He said his dad got injured, so the dad was just sitting down, but the dad doesn't turn around and speak or anything like that. So he took her upstairs in his room. He had a bunch of vinyl in his room. Basically said he collected from a bunch of old record stores and stuff like that. So he's a real looking, you think he's kind of weird. He did have a book from that famous book, Living Deceased, whatever it's called. I forgot what it's exactly called. the book of the living dead that they read when they pass away. He said he got it from a bookstore. So you already seeing some clues there that was off or whatever. So Lydia, not Lydia, Astrid pretty much, he told Astrid, hey, let's hang out on, and it was Astrid pretty much said, my mom's going to get married, I'm not really for it. And he was like, well, let's just hang out here. You come see me, you can hang, we can dress up as with Halloween, and then you come hang out with me. So Astrid was like, cool. So she went about her business. Meanwhile, what's happening now is Lydia told her boyfriend about Beetlejuice. And when she told her boyfriend, he ain't really believe her. So Lydia pretty much said, so I could get closer to show you that this thing is real, she said to call in the Beetlejuice, and then they ended up in Beetlejuice's office where Beetlejuice playing as a therapist. And a bunch of funny moments. Beetlejuice did all his tricks and said his quirky jokes, and also he made Lydia have a baby, and then little Beetlejuice came out and was biting on her with no teeth, and that was like comic relief. The little baby went disappearing somewhere. So when Lydia said home, 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 what took place is they ended up, the boyfriend thought he was just dreaming, but that was the reality. And so what ended up taking place from there is now you had Delia, she want to honor her boyfriend. Well, I say her boyfriend, her husband, Charles, go to his plot in the cemetery and, just honor him. So she went and got these, she thinking from ancient time they would get snakes and show their mate, honor their mates with snakes or whatever. And so Astrid was pretty much, don't you think that's dangerous? You got these poisonous snakes? And she said, no, I paid for them to get the venom taken out of them. So of course, while she's at the gravesite, she get bit by both snakes and die instantly with venom. So she ended up in the afterworld. Now, in the afterworld, Charles was already walking around ready to cross over with the Soul Train line. But he didn't get there. So now she's dead. She's being obnoxious. I can't believe I'm dead. And everything like that. So you had that going on. Meanwhile, Beetlejuice, he works kind of like in the basement of the dead area, where people show up, and the dude with the small head from part 1, he got a bunch of them that work for him, and his main person name is Bob. And so of course it's a lot of comic relief with that, or whatever. So meanwhile, Dolores is sucking everybody's soul out. And so now you get to Lydia meeting up with the boys she met family. Well, coming over for Halloween. It was right at that moment, because when Lydia went to drop her off, she was like, that's a weird looking house. And then she was like, yeah. So Lydia was like, well, I'm coming in, I want to meet the family. And then, or Astrid was like, no, don't come in, you're going to embarrass me. This is not a play day. It's not like I'm a little kid. I'm going to be fine. Right when at that moment, that's when I felt, I wonder is the parents dead, because they never really fully met Astrid either. Are they ghosts? That's when the moment it hit me like, oh stuff. Astrid can see ghosts like her mom. That's when it hit me. So of course she get in the room and she kisses the boy, and the boy instantly said they floated in the sky. And so then you find out that he died many years ago. The reason why he got records and vinyl, because he died many years ago, and he pretty much, Astrid could see him. But you don't know, and he pretty much was telling her, she was pretty sad that she never got a chance to see her dad. So he told her that that by him reading that book and she do the seance, they can cross over into the other world. And if she cross over, she'll be able to see her dad. or whatever, and he pretty much stuck, and he need to get over there, and she needs to marry him, and she'll be able to see her dad. So she agreed. She be able to seance. So what happened was, when after Lydia dropped her off, they were signing the paperwork to sign off the house to the realtor that's always in the area, and Lydia pretty much brought up, she dropped Astrid off and she named the house, and she was like, well, what house is on that block? Because it's a house I never could sell. And then she said the address. She said, oh, no, not that address. She's like, and then Lydia was like, yeah, I dropped them off at, and she said the boy's name. I can't think of what the kid's name was. But nevertheless, she said his name. She's like, oh, well, it couldn't be. He died many years ago. But he was a bad apple. He he killed his family. He killed his mom and dad. When he killed them, he jumped up in his his treehouse, and then fell from the treehouse and broke his neck and died instantly. So he's been stuck ever since. And so Lydia got alarmed, and she darted back to the house. So when she got to the house, it was right when Astrid had said the seance, and she went into the afterworld. And so when you walk in, Lydia sees the mom full pledged. The mom had you seen the other half of the mom where she had something sticking out her head. That's how she died. And you seen the other half of the dad. He had something sticking out his head, so he died. And so Lydia went upstairs, and Astrid had already went to the afterworld with the boy. Meanwhile, so Lydia said, well, how am I going to get help? Of course, she go back to the model, says Beetlejuice, and pretty much he said, in order for me to help you, you're going to have to marry me for real this time. And had her sign a form. So he takes her in the afterworld. They're fine. They go to find Lydia's daughter, Astrid. In the process of that, Astrid finds out that the boy was just manipulating her so he could get back in the real world. So when she did the seance, that was her way of saying she agreed to take his place in the afterworld or whatever. So he pretty much told her, like, you're a sucker. And she had to go get something stamped. Meanwhile, they took her off and taking her to the soul train area. And when the process of them taking her off, she sees her dad. He was working in behind the booth. And when she see her dad, he sees her. He's calling out for her. So by this time, Lydia makes it into the afterworld, looking for her daughter. And her and Beetlejuice split up. Meanwhile, this whole time, William Dafoe, he's like the ghost detective. In the real world, he was an actor playing a detective, but now in the afterworld, he's an actual ghost detective. So he's trying to find Dolores, and now he's after Beetlejuice because he brought a live, living person into the afterworld, so that's against their code or whatever. So he's after Dolores, and he's after Beetlejuice the same way. So now what happens is Lydia finally get Astrid, saves her, and they did an emergency exit. When they did the emergency exit, of course, they ended up in sandworms. The dad came and helped Lydia and his daughter, brought them back to safety. And then they had to talk. And he pretty much said, I'm always with y'all. Y'all just don't see me. And pretty much saying that y'all need each other. Y'all don't need to fight. And y'all need to become a union or whatever. So he helped them get back to the real world. When they got back to the real world, Lydia pretty much said, I have a wedding to get to, He loves me enough, and that's it. So now Beetlejuice was still stuck in the afterworld, but of course, they never said it. So now he shows up in the real world, and he interrupts the wedding. And what he did, he gave Lydia's boyfriend some truth serum. And so when he started speaking his truth, he pretty much was saying he always thought Lydia was a joke and a hoax. He really was with her for the money. And when he was with her for the money, he pretty much from there, Beetlejuice gave Lydia something to punch him with, and pretty much punched him and knocked him out. So now Beetlejuice was like, he got rid of the people who was like influencers there to watch the wedding, made them suck them into their telephones, and after he sucked them into their telephones, he went on with the wedding. So now you finally think the wedding is going to happen, and what happens is Beetlejuice had this singing ceremony going on, this singing ceremony happening in a wedding. I mean, comic relief, but he had a singing ceremony going on. And by the time they got done the singing ceremony, the ghost detective and his crew came in, and then Beetlejuice froze them all. And then, of course, at this point, Dolores comes in. She pretty much tell Beetlejuice, like, listen, I need to suck your soul. Beetlejuice said, listen, take this guy, which is Lydia's boyfriend or whatever. So from there, you had Lydia and Astrid took the book and they drew a picture and they drew a square on the wall, knocked on it. And with that, she knew how to summon the sandworms. So the sandworms came in pretty much after they came in. Beetlejuice led them, the sandworms, to snatch Dolores and Lydia's boyfriend. And now Beetlejuice is pretty much saying, all right, Lydia, a deal is a deal. You signed it, you owe me to get married. And so Astrid pretty much was like, nah, against code such and such, such and such, you had her sign that you supposed to get her to sign that while she was illegally in the afterlife. And so the contract disappeared, and then they said Beetlejuice's name 3 times, and he just inflated up, and then he blew up. And pretty much the ghost detective said, well, you got him out of here. And she pretty much grabbed Delia. And they was like, oh, you did? Because they thought Delia was there. She wasn't dead or whatever. And Astrid pretty much like, it was those snakes, wasn't it? They was really poisonous. She was like, yeah. So they pretty much told her, like, basically we'll live on, your art will increase, and send her back into the afterworld. She went to the soul train. She found Henry's other half of his body. And so they found each other. They went on happily, and from there you had Lydia and Astrid pretty much salvage their relationship. Lydia quit the ghost show, and they went to go travel the world and see things. Now Lydia, then a sequence happens where it shows Lydia and Astrid getting a boyfriend, married a boyfriend, and then in the delivery room, Lydia was watching from the glass, and all of a sudden this blood just shot out, and it was the Beetlejuice baby. And the Beetlejuice baby killed everybody in the room, and then they looked up in the sky, and the Beetlejuice baby was making jokes. And then when Lydia woke up, like, whoa, like this can't be real. Beetlejuice next to her woke up and said, wow, I just had a crazy dream. And then when she finally came to, excuse me, and looked over, she seen that so when Lydia finally looked over, there was nobody there. And it just went off like that. So can I see a part 3? Why not? Because this movie, I think, gonna do well in the box office, and it won't hurt. It's still some more story to tell, and while you got the actors still alive, why not? And also, what you can do when they talked about I can't think of what the couple's last name from the first Beetlejuice 1. When they talked about them, they said they moved on to, they moved on with their lives. They wasn't caught in between no more. They found a loophole. And they never went into what that loophole was. They just said they found a loophole and they was able to move on beyond the afterlife. So if this movie does well in the box office, you definitely can see a part 3 where they find a way to bring Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis back in and incorporate them back in the storyline. why not? Especially if this movie it had to be a fun movie to make. So overall, it was a decent movie, good nostalgia feel. Still basically played off of part one. For them to come over 36 years ago to come and do a part two 36 years later, like, that's phenomenal for them to be to feed off the very first one and make it good and not a disappointment. So out of my 4-star rating system, I give this movie a 3 out of 4 stars. Good movie to watch. Go see it in the theater. Especially it should definitely do well in the box office and leading up through Halloween. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Till next time.